So the complexity of the professor's task reflects the complexity of the higher education system. On one hand, colleges and universities are primarily educational institutions, which means that they must offer student programs, study programs. Some institutions are more comprehensive. Others focus on some disciplines, for example, liberal arts, health sciences, professional programs, or they focus on study levels, technical, undergrad, graduate studies. Some institutions are considered as research institutions, whereas others mainly focus on their teaching mission. Some are located in urban environment, others are in remote area, which is important because the institution must create close links with the social environment. Some are very small and others very large. I work in Canada, in the province of Ontario, belong to the Ontario University Quality Assurance Council. One of the university we look at receive less than 50 students, whereas the University of Toronto receives more than 150 students. And this is even small when compared to the Indira Gandhi National Open University with more than 4 billion students. Some are private, and among the private one, mainly operates with public funding, or the opposite, which is a major trend, public institution relying heavily on private funding. So what is amazing is to see that all these universities are inspired by the same old model. The University of Bologna, which was founded in 1088, almost 1,000 years ago. At that time, the university was controlled by a corporation of scholars, students, and professors, and received many foreign students called nations. The role of the institution was to create and disseminate knowledge. The Bologna governance model is still the one that inspires most universities around the world. The university has an open forum where different ideas interplay and where understanding the world is still a dominant value. Of course, this model is repeatedly questioned by observers and considered as anachronical, but it still works. But it seems that higher education is now at a turning point. The Bologna model cannot be applied without taking into consideration major factors such as the use of internet for course delivery. There were no MOOCs at the University of Bologna. The organization of research and development. The scholar who corresponds to the medial erudite person has become a myth. The rise of professors' union. Many universities struggle to maintain a collegiate management approach in a unionized environment that assumes an employer versus employee relationship. The demographic changes. In many countries, the population gets older. The evolution of higher education funding. High tuition fees, of course, impact access. And finally, the influence of external stakeholders. And this is a growing influence that we observe from groups who contribute to funding, parents, government, of course, but also donors, industry, and so on. So, in fact, some people are perceived, who are perceived as major, as people who play a major leadership role, in fact, might have minimal influence because there are so many internal and external stakeholders in higher education who can share their authority. To help conceptualize this phenomenon, Phillips and Snodgrass refer to the general system theory and concept of cultural determinism. General system theory explains the transformative process of exchanges between the institution and their internal and external environment. It can help understand why some inputs from the external environment are integrated and others are not. Leaders in higher education are positioned to receive the internal and external environment inputs and lead change as they deem necessary. The concept of cultural determinism involves that the decisions made by leaders are more determined by the general cultural context of the situation rather than their own skills or values. In other words, leaders' decision in higher education depends on the operating environmental structures, cultures, and systems. Leaders must maintain a high level of awareness to the conditions of the external environment. At the same time, to successfully implement any change, they must also be aware of the internal environment of their institution. Okay, you know this person, Dolly Parton. In this complex environment, what does leadership mean? So Dolly Parton, the famous American country singer and songwriter, is thought, I don't know if it is true, it's thought to have said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. So if you look carefully the following slides, who's the leader? That's an easy one if you're a fan of American football. Yeah. Who's the leader? There are leaders in politics. Who's the leader? Fidel Castro or Donald Trump? There are leaders in business. Mohammed Yunus, the Nobel Prize, or Elon Musk. Artists can be leaders. Who's the leader? Facundo Cabral or Pablo Picasso. And of course, revolutions need leaders. Whoops. Sorry. Revolutions need the leaders, Mahatma Gandhi or Lenin. So, according to Fairholm, 4 threads may help to understand the evolution of the concept. The first 3 threads lean toward a reductionist view of leadership by aggregating data about leaders and situations. But the first one is called threat theories. Leadership depends upon personal qualities, personality, character, including charisma, and these are still popular. There are also behavior theories, and the focus here is on action, which means getting things done and relating well with people. There are also situational theories or contingency theories, which define leadership through what leaders do in specific situations that differ because of internal and external forces. And finally, there are value-based transformational theory, where leadership can only be understood by studying specific individuals in specific situations. So these approaches recognize the need to develop the individual, letting them flourish independently while maintaining a functioning organization that fulfills its goals through shared values. So let's go back to the definition of leadership. What is leadership? Probably Dolly Parton's aphorism is not sufficient to define leadership. Yule draws upon the many existing definitions and defines leadership as a process of influencing others to understand and agree about what needs to be done and how to do it, and a process of facilitating individual and collective efforts to accomplish shared objectives. So leadership is a process to influence people. This is what Argue wrote. So to influence people in the context of group work. As far as higher education is concerned, the group is the member of the university community who are in relation with programs, professors, but also staff, support staff, and students. Leaders never work alone. There are various styles ranging from those who impose their perspective to those who induce action. We will come to this later. However, the best leaders can promote adherence without undue pressure, and their orientation is clear. As far as higher education is concerned, general objectives refer to student success, which entails the institution development and its social contribution. There are various types of leadership, but in fact, it boils down to 3 types. The laissez-faire type is characterized by passive attitudes in relation with the followers. Laissez-faire leaders tend to give up their roles so that they provide very little support. They avoid decision-making, delegate responsibilities, and may look like not caring about their followers' needs. Although laissez-faire leadership may be appropriate in very particular situations, it is generally not efficient and can hardly be defined as leadership. So we're left with 2 others, transactional leaders. They focus on interaction with the followers. They ensure that their responsibilities, objectives, and tasks are clear. Transactional leaders' priority is to keep the organization running. Since they motivate people through contractual agreement, they tend to overuse extrinsic rewards such as incentive pays or promotions. They usually have a low risk tolerance. Transactional leaders assist their followers in determining what should be done to get the expected results in order to improve the quality of the service or reduce costs. The third type, which is most interesting, transformational leaders. They encourage followers to do more than what is needed and go beyond their immediate interests. This type of leadership is important to reinforce collective trust whenever a group is facing with difficulties. Transformational leaders can be agents of change, promote intrinsic motivation, ensure loyalty among the followers, introduce new vision of the future. There are 4 dimensions in transformational leadership. Transformational leaders are perceived as models. Transformational leaders propose attractive visions that motivate the followers. Transformational leaders trigger intellectual stimulation so that followers become more innovative and creative. And transformational leaders give personal attention. They offer support. Although there is not a typical profile of transformational leaders, there is some evidence that this kind of leadership is more efficient. Now, when analyzing leadership in any kind of organization, it's important to keep in mind that leadership is not the same as management. Leadership can come from those who hold formal managerial position, but it can come from various members of the organization as well. Goldenstein studied the relationship between management and leadership in the context of higher education, proposed a twofold concept that leads to self-leadership. Academic management is used in order to frame academic tasks and processes, such as allocation of workload, performance monitoring and assessment, and provision and distribution of resources. Whereas academic leadership, on the other hand, is conceived far more broadly than institutional roles and is most significant in terms of its impact upon academic values and identities. And through that, self-leadership develops in the individuals, either through the example they try to set to inspire their peers, or as a conscious decision to take on formal or informal leadership role. We also talk about vertical leadership and shared leadership. We know it is difficult for anyone to be an expert in all aspects of work. This is true in a wide variety of contexts, ranging from the research development lab to the executive suite to the higher education institution. In the recent years, within the framework of transformational leadership, a new approach emerged: shared leadership, which is also known as distributed leadership or sometimes collective leadership, among other terms. The idea is rather than concentrating power and authority in an individual leader, usually at the top of the organization. Shared leadership involves multiple people influencing one another across varying levels and at different times. So, well, there are various definitions of shared leadership. Kazan and Alcom argued that they all share some common characteristic. A greater number of individuals in leadership than traditional models. Leaders and followers are seen as interchangeable. Leadership is not based on position or authority. Multiple perspectives and expertise are capitalized on for problem solving, innovation, and change. And collaboration and interactions across the organizations are typically emphasized. Shared leadership identified various individuals on campus with relevant expertise, while shared forms of leadership involve a broader conception of leadership and run counter to more traditional hierarchical styles. It is important to mention that shared leadership and vertical leadership are not mutually exclusive. In fact, specific types of vertical leaders are often necessary to foster shared leadership. So you don't really exclude each other. Sorry. So the shared leadership approach has been seen for various types of organization, but it fits very well with the principle that still underlie the functioning of today's university. Bowden team observed that there is a sense that leadership is actually distributed in some way within the university, and there is a widespread acceptance of the need for a leadership approach that builds on the strength of the organization. The notion of shared leadership seems well aligned with notions of collegiality and professional autonomy. This research team proposed a vision of academic leaders as citizens rather than employees, managers, or individuals. They observed that what is considered as academic leadership is not always demonstrated by people in formal managerial roles, but often come from influential colleagues within one's own academic discipline. That is the reason why leadership is also associated with mentoring and teamwork. From this perspective, academic leadership can be described as a process through which academic values and identities are constructed, promoted, and maintained. So academic values and identities are constructed in reference to dimension of the professorial activities. In most universities, professors' tasks include teaching, research, and service activities. The proportion and intensity of these responsibilities change according to each professor's academic profile, to the social demand, and of course, to the mission of each institution. We know that these tasks require different skills and do not necessarily correlate. Therefore, one can be an outstanding teacher and a poor researcher, or vice versa, a recognized researcher, but a terrible manager, and so on. But we also find professors who are excellent researchers, excellent teachers, excellent managers. There are also professors who are involved in the external community. Others very involved in the university community. And the perfect professor is expected to be excellent in all these dimensions. Now, most professors are not prepared for administrative work. Although understanding the academic environment is a great advantage, it does not mean that professors can always become formal leaders whenever they are asked to take management responsibilities in the institution. However, we see that many professors spend a significant percentage of their time on management activities. They are program directors, department chairs, vice deans, deans. Even at the senior management level, they become a vice president of the academy, or provost in the Anglo-Saxon world. And often the president is a former professor. Each of them must find his or her style as a leader and be a transformational leader. But despite the abundance of literature concerning formal leadership, fewer studies have been conducted with academics in non-formal leadership roles that focus on how they develop their leadership in teaching and research, which is the core business of the university. But there are many opportunities for professors to become a leader in the teaching and learning area. They can be, they could do this by leading teaching teams, by developing and implementing new study programs, by reviewing and improving study programs, by mentoring new professors on teaching, by stimulating and motivating graduate students through supervision, by participating in juries for graduate students, and the list goes on and on. Is certainly not close. So there are various ways to be a leader in teaching. By the same token, there are many opportunities for professors to become a leader in the research area. That could be done by being recognized as a reference in the field, of course, but also by coaching new professors in grant application writing, publishing with young professors and students, integrating young professors in research team, hiring, training, and supervising research assistants, being creative in fundraising. And again, there are various ways that we can see leadership in research. Finally, as I mentioned before, the concept of academic leadership puts forward the role of professor as citizen. This means that professors play a social role. McFarlane talks about intellectual leadership and argues that it may be understood in terms of four principal orientation: knowledge producer, academic citizen, boundary transgressor, and public intellectual. And so from this perspective, the participation of professors in public debates, in non-credit learning initiatives, in technology development, for example, is crucial. So the professor is primarily a citizen. To conclude, the perfect professor, which was the title of the presentation, is an academic leader. Academic leadership covers all the dimensions of professoriate activities, research, teaching, for sure. Concept of academic leadership integrates the traditional values that are promoted by university for 1,000 years. And academic leadership is shared, and academic leadership is transformational.